Yeah, hi team. So I think we can go and start the session. Let me share my screen. So today we'll see the new topic that okay how we can go and use the REST APIs in our scenario. So what we will do, right? We have some sample server which we are going to use for our explanation purpose. So let me just log in first. So this is a server free server what we have request, right? Because if we wanted to test our integration, right, we need to have this one, right? So what we do, right? We'll go and use this one. So in this one, if you see, right, what all things we have, right? We have this some sample REST API, right, which will give us the data. So we'll see by using this one, like all the concepts that okay, what are the different types of REST APIs we can go and create. So we can come into our integration design part. So we know, right? First, we need to define any connection, right? So what we need to do, right? We need to define the connection. So like suppose this is one endpoint or this is one server. So if you have to communicate with this server, what all things we need, right? We need to establish the communication with this one, right? So how we can go and do, right? For example, if I will say that, okay, I wanted to call this login API, right? So like I will call this one, I will get the token, right? So all those things will get. But how we will get this one, right? So what we need to do, right? First, we need to go and define connection for this server into our integration. So we can come to the connections. And here we'll search with our B01. So if you see, right, this is the trigger connection what we have. Okay, so I think this is the new instance we have. So first we'll go and create one trigger connection for the REST API. So we'll say REST B01 underscore OIC trigger connection. Right, so this is my trigger connection to start the integration. So I will use this as a trigger only. And what we'll do, right, we'll go and put create here. So in this one, right, what we need to do, right, we just need to set up the authentication. So we'll use both basic authentication and auth, right? And then we can go and do the test and we can go and save. So this connection will we will go and use for our integration to start. But what is the next thing which we'll use, right? So the next thing which we need, right, is like to establish the communication with this one, right? So for this one, right, we need the invoke connection because this is my target system, right? My OIC will communicate with this server, right? So if my OIC will communicate with this server, right? How they will communicate, right? So connection should be there, right? So we can go and define one more connection. And this is our REST API only, right? So again, we will use the same adapter. REST adapter will use. We can go and give the name B01 underscore OIC. Then I can say rec request, right? So I'm giving my server name rec request underscore. So this is I will do both invoke and trigger connection, right? So this is my rec request, or I can just say that okay rec request connection, right? Any name as per your requirement, right? We can say so we can say rec request connection. This will go and define both trigger and invoke, and we can say continue. So now we are defining as invoke, right? So it means like we will communicate with some other system, right? So when we communicate with other system, right, we have to define that the endpoint, right? That okay, what is that system with which we will go and communicate. So here we can come and we can say it is a REST API based URL. So we can come here and then we can say that okay, this is our server. So we can copy this server and we can go and put this endpoint here. So this is our endpoint here, what we have. Now, if you see, right, for this one, right, we don't have any authentication. So what we do, right, if we have any authentication, right, for example, basic authentication or any other authentication method, right, we can go and apply that one. But in this case, right, we don't have. So what we do, right, we can say no security policy, right? And then we can go and do the test connection. So once we do the test connection, right, it will go and check. So if you see, right, it is able to validate that, okay, we are able. Suppose if I will give this wrong URL, right, I will say that, okay, here right. So first I will go and open this server into the our browser. If you see, right, we will not able to get this one, right. We'll say we had trouble finding that site, right. Same thing, suppose if I will go and do here test, right. So what will happen, right? Our integration will also give error. Unable to test this connection. So it means unable to pass these resources. So it means we are not able to reach to this resource, right? So what we do, right? We can go and do the correction again here. Integration. Now we can say test again. So if you see, right, when it is a correct, right, what will happen, right? It will show configuration 100%. And now we can go and do the save here. So our connection got created. Now our both the connections are there for the testing purpose, right? So we have this one. We can go and see. If you see, we have the trigger connection also, and we have the request and invoke connection also. So anyone, any questions till now into these connections, like okay, why we are creating or what is the purpose we need to have? Anyone, any questions into this one? Okay, so if no question, then we'll go and see the next one. Just give me
One,
1 second.
one
Yeah,
doubt.
please.
Actually,
Yeah,
we have given the URL, right, to call the REST API. So
right.
if I call that any new packages on that, how can I?
No, can you
There
repeat
is
your
a
question?
suppose like a actual database, we are creating the package or something, right? If you call that type of packages, is possibility here, or we need to go for that all our REST APIs, only, which is provided by
No, no.
Oracle.
Yeah. So like if you see, right, this is we are doing for the REST API. So
Yeah.
if you have the PL SQL procedure now, right? So for that one, what you need, right? You need to use the database, right? Because that will be using database, right? So either if you have the ATP, right? So Oracle
Oh,
ATP you will
oh,
use for the connection, right? Or if you
okay.
it is an Oracle database, right? So you will use Oracle ATP, ADW, or Oracle database also we have. So DBAS we
Oh,
have, right? So first we have to go
okay.
and establish the communication with that one, and then we can go and call those packages and everything.
Oh, oh, okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions if anyone has? Okay, so just give me 1 second. I am just getting one call. Okay, sorry, Tim. So let me share my screen back. So now what we have done, right? We are able to establish our communication, right? It means if I wanted to communicate with this one, right? I already have defined the connection. Now what we do, right? We'll go and define the connection that, okay, how we can go and call this one into our integration. So first we'll come here. Let me search here with. So we'll go and define our application integration only. And I will write here B1 YC. So what we'll see, right? First we'll see how we can go and invoke the connection. So we'll see invoke integration underscore 05. And we'll go and put this into our package, which is B01 underscore OIC and create. So this is our integration. Now first I wanted to define my integration, right? To start the integration. So what we'll do, right? We'll use our trigger connection because that will go and start our integration, right? So we can come here and we can say that, okay, create integration. So what this will do, right? So all those things we are going to define here. That, okay, what my REST API will do, right? Because at the end, right, what it will generate, right? It will generate the REST API only, right? So we can come here, start. Any name you can go and call. So I will give my name as a start. Then we can say continue. So what this operation will do, right? So we can go and give this one. So if you said whichever are the required field, right? So suppose if I will do continue, right? I will get that error, right? So why will get error? Because some of the fields are required, right? If I will go back and come again, right? So you can go and see wherever it is a required, right? So those things are kind of a required which we need to go and pass, right? So what is the endpoint URI, right? So here we have to go and define our endpoint URI. So we can say slash start. Then what is the type of REST API, right? So we know, right? The REST API, right, are kind of 4 types or 5 types, right? So if you see, right, all types you will be able to see get, put, post, delete, and patch. So whatever the type of REST API we wanted to create, right, we can go and define that one. So what we'll do, right, we'll use this one, right? So this is our post method, right? So we'll go and define the post method. That, okay, how we can go and use the post method. So post method we'll use. Then if you see, right, this is having a request payload, right? So this is a request payload, this is a response payload, right? It means this is our input and this is our output, right? So for when we do log into any system, right, what we need to do, right? We used to enter the email, we used to enter the password, and if those credentials are correct, right, what will happen, right? We will say that, okay, authenticated. If suppose those credentials are wrong, right, what will happen? We will get that error, right? So same behavior we are doing here, right? So this is our request or input we can consider, and this is our output. So in our integration, right, where we need to define it, if suppose we have any parameter, right, so parameters will go and define into the first point. If you have a request payload, right, so request payload is nothing but the input, right? So we can say that yes, we need to have the input. Then we can say that, okay, yes, we need to have the output also. So we can say, right, both the things. Now we can say continue. So if you see, this is a trigger connection, right? Still, it is not an invoke connection, right? So what we do, right, we can go and define this with anything, right? Any order we can go. So here we can go and define. So whatever your input format, right? If you see here, our input format is into the JSON, right? So it means like we have the key and value. So what we do, right? We can come here and we can say that, okay, JSON. If suppose your input payload, right, it is of different type, right? XML, binary, right? So corresponding we can go and select, right? And then we need to provide the sample here, right? Because how our system will know that, okay, how we can go and create, right? So that we need to go and define here. So if you have the file, right, we can go and upload the file or we can go and enter the code here, right? So we can say that, okay, we can go and enter the code here. So we can go and click into this inline. Then we can come here and we can go and define our payload. So what we need, right? So we can go and define this one because this is our trigger, right? It means this is our endpoint, which will start, right? So here I can go and define anything. So first, right, we will go and define same. Then we'll go and see, right, if we go and change also. So I will go and define the same payload as it is. So this is our payload. Now we can say continue. We can go and see that. So if you see, right, we have configured the request. Now one thing, right, based on the previous step, right, whatever option we will see, right, so it will go and come those screens. So request came. If I will go and click into this one, right, so what will happen, right? So if you see it, we have not provided. So we can come here and we can go and provide this option again. Continue. We can say continue. So if you see, right, we got the response page. If suppose I have not selected it, then what would happen, right? It would have directly come here, the summary page, right? So here we could told that, okay, we need output also. And what is that output, right? We need the output into this format. So we can go and copy this one and we can come here and we can go and define our response here. That, okay, this is our response. Now we can say continue again, right? So we have defined both. Now we can say continue again. So what will happen, right? Now it will come to the summary page. So whatever we have done in the previous step, right? So all those things it will come now here. So if you go and click into this endpoint summary, right? So if you see, right, what it will come, right? First it will come, okay, we have the slash start service. We are using the post method. We have the request media type JSON format. Then we have the response also into the JSON format. Now we can go and do the finish here. So if you see, right, our integration got created, but still, right, we just have created our integration as a draft. We can go and do the save, right? So we have done this one. But what will happen into this one, right? If you see, right, this is just our start point, right? Still, we have not communicated with this one, right? So if we have to communicate with this one, right, what we need to do, right? If you see, right, in these lines, right, we have to go and write the logic. So this is our input payload, and this is the our output which will return. So in between, we need to write the code here. So what we do, right, here we can come, and this is the connection which we have used, right? Right. So this is what we have, right? So what we do, right, we can come here and we can use this one. So if you see it, what we are doing right now, we are calling our system, right? That, okay, this is a system what we need to have. So we can come here again and here, right, what we wanted to do, right? Right. So what we wanted to call here, right? So again, we can give this endpoint name that, okay, what we wanted to, right? So we can say login external system, right? So we wanted to log into the external system, right? So we can say login external system. Then what is the endpoint, right? This time, right, what we need to do, right? We need to go and define this endpoint because in the connection, right, what we did, right, we have defined this one, right? That, okay, this is our request payload. But what is a relative endpoint URI, right? So this is a relative endpoint URI because on this server, right, multiple REST APIs are there. If you see slash API slash user slash API slash users, right? And if you see this one, right? So different kind of REST endpoints are there, right? But which endpoint we need to call, right? So we need to go and give specific. So this is our relative endpoint URI, right? So we can go and copy this one or we can go and write here. So now we are calling this one, right, target system, right? So in the target system, we have to give all the information as it is. We cannot go and play around with this one, right? So if you see it in this one, right, we have given any value, right? We have given slash start, right? Because that is our endpoint. So we can go and give any value there. But in this case, right, what we do, right? We cannot give anything random here. We need to give here the value. So we can say here slash what we are, right? Slash API slash login. So it should be same we have to give here. So we can say slash API slash login, right? Now what is a method, right? So method also we need to give same only. So it is of post method. So post method only. So we can come here and we can define that, okay, it will have the post method only. It will have the request payload. It will have the response payload. So in this case, right, each and everything should be same. So we can just come here again. We can go and put this one here. Continue. We can say continue again. So what is our response, right? This is our response, which will look like. We can come back again here. We can go and define our response also here. We can say continue. Continue. So again, endpoint summary we came, right? That okay. What is endpoint URL? Right? Slash API slash login post method JSON, right? Now we can go and do the finish. So what will happen, right? Our invoke connection created and then mapper got created for this one, right? So first we can go and save this one. So what is happen, right? Whatever the parameter of this one, right? So for that one, the mapper will be created. So anything we will define into our system, right? What will happen, right? For that one, right? It will come here. The mapper will come, right? So this mapper is coming here. Now what we do, right? From this endpoint to this endpoint, right? Because it is kind of a flow, right? From here to here. So this is our input, right? So we will enter some value. So that will come into this one, right? But how that value will go from here to here, right? So that will go with the help of mapper, right? It means between this endpoint and this point, right? The communication will happen or the data transfer will happen with the help of this mapper, right? So we can go and click into this one. So in this mapper, right, what will happen? Source system will be there and target will be there. So for this one, right, this is the target, right? Because this mapper is there only for this one. If you see, right, source is start, target is login endpoint, right? So for this one, source, right? So it means whatever before to this one, right, all are going to be the source for this one. But target is going to be this only because this mapper is there specifically for only this one. So if I will go and click into this one, right? If you see, right, what is happening? We are getting the source here and target. If you see in the target, only one we have. But in the source side, if suppose multiple things would have been there, right? So it would have come multiple here. So where we have that our input payload, right? So in the external system, right, we need to pass email and password. And that will have into our request here. So we can go and use from here. So this is the mapping canvas. So what we do, right, we can just go drag and drop here. Same thing with the password, we can go and drag and drop, right? We can go and do this one, right? So it means like we are not writing even a, till now, right? We have not written even a single piece of code, right? So this is how we can go and do, right? So in this mapper part, right, what will happen, right? Two things will be there. One is like we can go and do all things with the help of designer. And second is like we can go and do with the help of code also. So whatever mapper will do, right? For that corresponding, right? The code will be generated here, right? So if you see, right, what two mappings we have done, right? For example, if you said this is the mapping what we did, right? Email to email. If I will go and delete this back, right? For example, let me come here and I will delete everything, right? So we can click into delete target mode. So whatever mapping we did, right? So all the mappings are gone. If I will come to the code, right? See here, nothing it is there, right? There's no code, right? If you see right here, only 32 lines are there. But once we do the mapping, right? What will happen, right? Behind the scene, the code will be auto-generated. If you see, I will do the mapping for email to email. So I'm not doing for password, right? So if I will come to the code, if you see, earlier the code was 32 lines, now 38 lines, right? And if you see, right, the mapping came for only the email. There's no mapping for the password. So we can come back again here. What we do, right? We can go and do the password to password. So what will happen, right? If we come back to the code again, so from 38 to 41 it become. For password also, we got this one. So if you know the accessibility, right, you can go and write the code also. But again, it is kind of a not necessary because we can go and do all those things with the help of here only. But Oracle has provided both the options that, okay, in case if you wanted to write your own code, we have that functionality. You can go and write your own code. In case if you don't want it to write your own code, right? So we have that option, right? So we can go and do the validate here. So mapping got validated here, right? So it means whatever mapping we have done, right? So that is correct. So in the Oracle, right? In the Oracle OIC, right? What will happen, right? At each step, right? The validations will happen. So that, okay, at any point, right? It will not look like that, okay? When your code will run, right? So that time it will go and fail. That, okay, this is not working or that is not working. Because all the validations, right? It will happen at each point here only. For example, right? We are not using this one, right? I can do delete mapping. And in this one, right? Will go and hardcode something, right? So I can say create target node and I will go and hardcode here something, right? So I will say here ABC, right? I will try to save this one, right? So what will happen, right? I will get that error. If you see, mapping for target is not valid, right? Because this is a string, right? So a string should come into the single quotes. So this time if I will go and do the save, right? So it will come correctly. If you see, now it is coming correctly, right? So it means all the validations will happen here only. If we do anything wrong, right? Or if something is not correct, right? So it will go and show that error here only. So we can just go and do the clear, save. So either we can go and do the mapping from here, or we can just go and place the code here also. The same mapping will come here, right? So we can go and do the validate again. If you see, it got validated, right? It means our integration is correct. Now we can come back again and we can do the save. So if you see, right, once we do the mapper, right, what will happen, right? The color will change. If you see, right, we have not done the mapping for this one, right? And once I'm clicking here, right, it is showing map unconfigured, right? It means the mapper got created, but we have not made any changes. But once we made the changes, right, this dotted thing, right? If I will zoom in, right, if you see, this is coming in as a dotted. But whereas on the other hand, right, this is not coming. In this one, what it is showing? It is showing map configured, right? It means we have done that configuration for this mapper, right? But on the other hand, right, for this one, right, we have not done any mapping, right? So for this one, we have not done. Now what will happen, right? Whatever our input was there, right? So that input came from here and we mapped from to this one, right? Now from this one, right, we'll get some output, right? So that output we wanted to see from our integration, right? So we have to come here and we'll do the mapping here. If you see, right, we came here. So this time, if you see, right, as I told, right, whatever the integrations will be, whatever the options for this one, right? If you see, we are doing mapper here. So before to this one, whatever we are doing, right, all those will be treated as a connection for this point, right? Or source for this connection. Target is going to be one only, but whatever we have before, right? So we have this also, we have this also, right? So we for this one, right, we have the request. For this one, we have the output, right? So all those will become the source for this one. So if you come here, right? If you see, right, in the source side, right, what we have, right, our start we have, then login external. So the input of this one and that output of this one, right? Then these are the metadata. It means all those things will come as a metadata, like source for this one. But target is it is going to be one only, right? So this is a token. So from output, right, we'll get that token, right? So this is our external request system of the response of that one. So we can go and click into this one, execute response wrapper. So this is the token what we'll get, right? So we can go and map that token to token. Now we can go and do the validate again. So we are done this one. Now what we do, right? We can come back again and we can do the save here, right? So what we are able to write, we are able to save. It means our integration we have completed. But if you see, still it is showing into the draft, right? Why? Because we have one error. And what is that error, right? If you come and see here, right? Business identify, right? So as I told, right, whenever we create any integration, one error we will get by default, right? So what is that error, right? So that is kind of a business identifier. So what that business identifier is, right? So for the tracking purpose, right? So we can call this as a tracking variable also, or we can call as a business identifier also, right? Both the things are same only. So we can go and define. So either we can come here, click into this one, it will do, or this is the point, right? So this is also business identifier only. We can click into this one. So it will also open the business identifier only, right? So both the things are the same. So in our case, right, what we do, right, we can go and define our email as the business identifier. So we can go and put here. So if you see, right, it is tracking variable one, right? So as I told, right, in the generation two, right, it was a business identifier only, but in the generation three, right, it becomes the tracking variable. Like in the business generation two, we used to call as a tracking variable only, but in the generation three, right, the name got updated as a tracking variable. Just give me 1 second. Yeah, hi Tim. So, like as I told, right, that okay, in the generation two, right, we used to call this as a tracking variable, but in the generation three, we rebranded this as a business identifier. So once we do this one, right, so up to three business identifiers we can go and add, but one is at least mandatory, right? Other if you put or not, that is completely okay, optional, but one it will be required. So now once I will do save, right, what will happen? It will go and do the configure, right? It means it will go into the configured state. So we are good with that one, right? Now what we do, right? We can come back again here and we can go and activate this one. Activate. So we can go to the production We can do the debug and activate. Refresh. So we came here. Now we can go and run this one. So if you see it, this is our testing window, right? We can go and test the file from here, right? So what will do the testing right here? We'll have the request, we'll have the response here, right? So we can come to the body. If you see it, we have the email and password. So I can go and click into run. So once I will do the run, right, what will happen, right? If you see right, it will take time to execute because our request first it will go to the server. Then from server, right, we will get that output. So just wait. So if you see, we are getting internal server error, missing API key. Okay, let us go and okay. So if you see right, we are getting this error, right, missing API key, right? It means like now without API key, right, it will not work. Earlier it used to work with this one. So we can say get free API key is request this one. Add this header to your API request, right? So if you see right, we need to go and modify this one because directly right we are not able to log in. Earlier we used to able to log in directly here because but now what is happened right now it got added the API key. So where we need to go and write, so we need to go and add the header here, right? So it means we can come to our integration. We can deactivate because we need to go and modify some changes. So we can say deactivate, come back to the integration. So where we need to add that. So when we are invoking, right, when we are calling this one, right, so that time it is failing. So if I will go back, right, and we can go to the track instance, right, we can see how the flow was happening. So we can come here. If you see it, it got errored out, right? I can click into this one. So I can go and see the flow where it got working. So if you see, first stop got completed, second got completed. We are getting the error at this point, right? So it means when we are trying to establish the communication with the external system, right? So that time we are getting that error, right? So if you see in the invoke login, right, we are getting that error, right? So we can come here and if you see it, we are getting that error here, right? So at this point, right, we are getting that error. So what we do, right, we can come back to our code, design, integration. So this is our place where we can go and add the code. Now in this one, right, we have to go and modify. So we can come. So what it is showing, right, we need to go and add the header to our API. So where we can go and add header. So we can come back here. If you see it, we can go and add the header here, right? Configure request header. So we can come here, click into continue. So now if you see it, first it will come to the request. Then if you see it, request header will come, right? So we can go and add the request header here. So if you see it, we can go and add the request header. But if you see it, it is giving the predefined, right? Standard, right? If you see right, I can double click here. And what is that format we are getting, right? So we can go and use any of these one. So do we have our here, right? So our request name is X API key, right? But that we don't have here, right? X API key, right? It means that we don't have that one here. So it is our own, right? So we can go back. So it means like it is not the standard one, right? It is the custom. So we can come to the custom. We can go and click into continue. Custom. Request payload. We came to the request header. If you see it, we can go and add here our custom, right? So what we do, right? We can come here and we can write our custom here. So we can come here and we can give this name here X API key because this is our parameter. So we can go and give our custom header here, X API key, right? Now what is the header name, right? And description of that one if we have, right? So we can go and click into this one, and this is our API key, right? So we can go and give this API key here. We can say continue. So here if you give or not give, right, that is completely okay because this is a description, right? So this is optional also in case if we don't want to give, right? So we cannot give this also because where we need to go and define this value, right? In the mapper part it will come. So we can see continue, continue, response it is same, right? We can do the finish. Then what will happen, right? We can come here. So if you see, right, a header will get, right? So we can come here in the custom header, right? Whatever the name we have given, right? So that will come, right? So we can right click here, create target node, and we can go and give that value here, the key, right? So we can go and put that key here. So request free version 1, validate. Now we can go and do the validate again. We can go and do the save. So we can go and test it out again. Activate, refresh. Now let us go and run the code again. So same request and response we need, right? So now we can go and click into request. So if you see it, this time it is working fine, right? Because we have added the key. If you see, right, we are getting the token. So how the flow is happening, right? We are passing the request, then we are communicating with the external system. So from external system, right, we are passing those values. If you see, we are passing the API key and we are passing the email and password. Then we are getting the response here, right? So that response will get here, and then that response, what we do, right? We can go and map with our own, right? So this is how we can go and establish the communication with external system, right? So this is what we have for today, right? Okay. In case if you wanted to communicate with external system with the help of REST API, how we can go and do. So any questions into this one, if anyone has? Okay. So if no question, right, then what we'll do, right? Today we'll wrap up the session here only as we are at the logical point. Tomorrow we'll see this integration will modify, right? That okay, how we can go and modify some things we can go and add into this one, and we'll see how it will be work. Any questions, anyone? Okay. So if no question, then I think we can go and wrap up the session. Thank you all.